Welcome back, friends. Oscar here, and it's time for The Camera Never Lies in Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. The Camera Never Lies. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there was plenty of gaps I could see inside through. The English woman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the English woman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames. Quickly as a flash, I whipped out my camera, ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked the lens through for the perfect shot. Those things are gonna break when he gets caught, because he's the killer. Reed screens, you say? Right, you can see them clearly enough in that great shot I snapped. There, I'm getting more of a drawl in there. The hut walls were just screens made of coarsely woven reeds. Yes, it allows the breeze to pass through and brings some relief from the summer heat. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. And you say that you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens? Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the big gap. Would I get away with it, or would I be seen? It was the gamble of a lifetime. A tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's Memoisms in a nutshell. I hate this man's name. At last, it would appear we have a genuine witness to this wicked crime. The evidence and the testimony are extremely compelling. I believe we may be close to a verdict. Here's the thing. Why would you anonymously send it? So you don't have yourself there at the scene of the crime. Now he's at the scene of the crime, he's got to lie, because then he's the killer. No. Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful. Nevertheless, it cannot be denied that this testimony begs one very large question. What question? Exclusive news, a startling photograph, all the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Yup. Why then was the story never published? Oh, that's right. It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. Ha! More pathetic excuses. Very well then, Counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. That in no way can't not hurt. Like, cross-examination. Camera never lies.
Hold it!
What made you want to see what was happening inside the beach hut in the first place? Call it journal instinct. Can you think of a better reason? Oh, I don't know. Perhaps murder? Perhaps because as well as being a proven criminal, the person inside was a young woman. Ah, I see where you're going with this. Brace yourselves, people. He's painting the journal as a voyeur. It's hardly slander, sir. You had a camera and you were taking pictures without the woman's knowledge. Nope, you've got it all wrong, little student boy. Sorry? I lack a divorce. In my mind, all that was inside the hut was a scoop, nothing more, nothing less. Scoops know no gender, man or woman. It's all news. That's not even Memo-isms. It's basic journalism. If only the courtroom was as indiscriminate. Right, so if that's all buttoned up, can we move on? Tell the court then, witness, what sight befell your eyes when you looked inside the hut? A sight that vindicated my journal instinct, that's what. When I pulled back the reeds, I could see it all as clear as day. By the way, I just realized it. His armband is the pen. So that's when we're going to catch him on that. We're going to get his ass. But eventually. So you actually saw Membami-san entering the hut? Yep, and she was raging. Raging like my journo's spirit. And the argument you mentioned, what was that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the English woman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she'd laid into her anymore, there would have been eggs. Oh my god! The man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears. Like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. Interesting thing to say. You really have to work on assemblies first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me. Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film. Brack, real quick. I'll look at something. We never looked at the picture, did we? Knife. Like how everyone wears these, like, swimming clothing for this time period. There's nothing really. Okay, here. Can I use it? The label appears to be written in a foreign language that I don't know. It's German, so the knowledge of English is going to be a little help here, I'm afraid. Couldn't you just have written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. It is? But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. Though I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate, since it's not medicine. I was hoping we'd be able to use this on the pen, but eventually we will, I assume. Knife. Ah yes, this must be the victim's blood. Oh dear, blood is never a pretty sight, is it? I'm having to fight the urge to run it under a hot tap and clean it. You've always been fastidious with cleanliness, haven't you? I think this is something else, Father. No symbols on it. Just a knife. Can we go back to the pen, or is that going to be something later? Let's take a look at the pen really quick. We can look at this again. I assume it doesn't jog anything new. No, it doesn't. Okay.
Hold it.
Do you swear before this court that you actually saw the precise moment when the stabbing took place? Huh, the precise moment? I didn't just see that. I saw the whole hellish scene play out, from start to finish. I have here a simple plan of the beach hut. Perhaps you could use it to explain to the court exactly what you witnessed? Right you are. It's all here in my memo pad. Memo. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the English woman was on this stool at the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat there at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Then the next moment, as I was watching, the evil student girl entered the hut. After a while, the pair of them ended up in the middle of the hut, arguing furiously. The English woman went for the student, but the girl dodged out of the way. And in a flash, plunged the knife into her adversary's back as the two passed each other. What you describe is a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says. The beachhead plan has been entered in the court record. By the way, Memo-san? Whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap of the screen, Did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy, rather than capture it on film? Journos have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's our raison d'etre. So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. A journalist being an outside observer to a murder is criminally not good. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. Yes, Professor. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to this formal testimony. Father, what are you... I will grant the defense's request. Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of Memoism, but I would gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. That's a weird thing to say. I never once set foot in the hut, nor spoke with an Englishwoman. I was only there as an observer. We can use the pen maybe on this? Hold it! Press him though. Really? You didn't set foot inside the hut at all? Are you quite sure about that? I think you may have the wrong impression of me. He's right there, in your face! Here's the clue. We're talking about a murder scene here. My nerves were stretched to breaking point already. Oh, I see. You were scared? Maybe I did have the wrong impression of you, sis. It was all I could do to stifle a scream and hold my hand steady enough to snap the shot. You really should have summoned help before thinking of your camera. Many Memoism and humanism don't always agree. And most of the time in those instances, many Memoism comes out on top. Huh. As a sculptor of stories, sometimes I have to be cruel for my art. Yes, that's spot on. Surely he's making all this up. So we'll get him on the pen there, I think. He claims to have spied the whole affair from start to finish. If true, his testimony is devastating. But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it? Oh, she said that! But it does seem as though he's holding something back, doesn't it? If that's how you feel, I suggest that you trust your instincts and press him on everything he says. As you've no doubt seen done many times before in your role as judicial assistant. Yes, I have. I've seen witnesses like this pressed often. Pressed often? I know exactly what to do. They put that at the end, didn't they? I was, like, only this far in, I think. So let's go here. Press here. The court is fully aware of your desire to capture the incident on film, I'm sure. But why, then, did you choose to post the photograph anonymously to the police? I'm afraid I don't understand a word that's coming out of your mouth. I'm just asking, as a journalist, you decided not to make a story out of the incident. Think of me as a sculptor who makes art out of the sordid, private details of other people's lives. I never discuss my own personal life on principle. I mean, that's basic Memoisms. It's not something to boast about. No doubt your burning desire to see the truth exposed and justice done was what motivated you. That's it. That's brilliant. My burning desire to see something or other exposed. There has to be a good reason why he didn't think to write an article about what he saw, though. I own admission, you're outside the hut. How then did you manage to take the photograph? Oh yes, I'm glad you asked. The next part. Hold it. Last press. But the two women inside didn't notice? Ha, obviously not. If they had, where would I be right now? In jail, that's where. Which you'd think would make you reflect on what you were doing. No, a journo's job is to collect little snippets of life as unobtrusively as possible. Leave nothing but footprints. Take nothing but photographs. Yes, that's spot on. Did he just make that up? The point is, the witness risked life and limb to obtain this photograph. This photograph reveals the real truth. There's nothing more to be said. Alright, now we're gonna get him on the pen. Pen! Objection! Here we go. Memo-san, until now I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. The press don't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Show You News on my arm. In a way, that's more Memoism. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth. What are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, Counsel? Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you... If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved there. R.M. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Ray Membami. Is it a coincidence, I wonder, that your initials are also R.M.? Bah! No! Write in a memo R.M. That's horse dung. Can't you see, one of the central tenets of memoism is being a pencil user? And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see on your right hand, there are a very obvious blue ink stain. Why did he not wash that after 2 days? It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey dung. Horsey horse dung. Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Jezal Brett in that beach hut? Objection! Why should we listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse. Exactly. Show You News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. And there's no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, Counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. Right effing here. The clue in this fountain pen that clearly reveals its owner's identity is... Kablam! Apparently that wasn't me presenting it, that was just me looking at it. Present. Good! As well as the initials, there is also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize. Memo-san. Goodness me! It's the emblem of the Show You News. In other words, the owner of this pen is an employee of the Show You News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order, explain yourself, witness. So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to help well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I think I lost the voice for a second. I use nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded, I, a Show You News reporter on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview? You never mentioned this before. When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed up facing the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes, that's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing, and as we Memo say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. You will testify now under oath about the precise nature of this meeting and what transpired. Got it. Yes, alright, but on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Soseki Natsume-san. Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own, and brace yourselves. Because it's not a harmless one, it's big. What? Alright. Memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. This is where we're gonna do the looking at other people thing. Very well, I will grant the witness's request in this instance. Officer, summon the earlier witness back to the stand. Soseki-san? Hiding something? Ooh. Here we go. The witness's secrets. I asked the English one for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many Memoism demands I reveal it now. Okay. You mean to say the victim... The victim regained consciousness? And when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. He did. And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definitive answer. An answer that incriminates the accused. This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? Why didn't you mention this before, you yokel hack? It wasn't even a conversation. Yes, I did pose the withering English Rosa question. I don't deny it. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Counsel for the defense, I expect a thorough cross-examination to be conducted here. This court must and will know the truth. Absolutely, Your Excellency. The reporter is claiming that Miss Brett implicated Ray somehow. What on earth could have happened in that hut? There we go. At some point he's going to react when we jump on it.
Hold it!
You asked her for an interview, you say? Well, of course I did. I wanted to ask her about the incident she was involved in at the end of the last year. About the case in which Dr. John H. Wilson lost his life? That's not the way I praised it. Memoism calls for a straight talking. Why did you murder Dr. Wilson, is how I put it to her. Yes, that sort of talking is just straight as a ruler. Ask every question as if you're asking for a menu in a restaurant. I say it's the best. A veteran at the paper taught me that. And how did Miss Brett answer? With one simple phrase. Mystery is a woman's charm. Ooh, that told me. So I waltzed right out of there. Really? Something about that doesn't quite seem to fit together. Leave every room as if you're waltzing in a dance hall, I'd say. It's the best way. Then how'd she get this pen? The veteran at the paper taught me that. How did she get his pen?
Hold it!
That was very persistent of you, considering that Miss Brett had just turned you away. Persistence wins the prize. Any Memo will tell you that. Let them think you've left. Then just when they lower the guard, that's when you swoop in for the scoop. And the fruits of your labor are all too apparent in this telling photograph. Though I'm sure the young yokel student would rather not be reminded of this damning evidence. Actually, it's thanks to that photograph that we managed to identify this witness. And now that you found me, I'll tell you whatever you want to know. I've got nothing to hide. I'm sure. Please, do go ahead, witness. The court is eager to hear what you have to say. Try to stop me. There's a story to tell here, and I'm going to tell it.
Hold it!
Has Saseki-san remained behind in the hut? That's right, yep. Our author friend here was a blabbering wreck, shaking all over from his head to his toes. Mustache twitching, eyes bulging. What do you expect? You don't know the terrifying troubles that haunted me whilst traveling abroad. Back behind baleful bars. They'll be coming for me, surely. That's all I could think. I felt as though I were gasping for air, drowning in a sea of cold sweat. Poor Saseki-san, his experiences in London have scarred him deeply. As the world seemed to close in around me, I quietly recited a prayer to Amida Buddha. Eternal happiness, empty eternity. The end is coming for me, surely. No sutras are to resound in my courtroom, please. And now we come to the crucial part, and that's when it happened.
Hold it!
What question? What question? What exactly did he say? Well, now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Riderman? No! Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to that dying English woman? Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. But then, all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, young girls' panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray! I ran up the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Osanaga saw Brett on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead English woman. I nearly jumped out of my skin. But what did you ask her, Saseki-san? I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But... when in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! Okay. Now he's got something to add in there. Asked her who did this to you, but she never replied.
Hold it!
So you tried to find out who the culprit was? He who asks a question is a fool for a minute, but he who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever. However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond, is that correct? I know why the English woman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stoop and mustache, because I'm Japanese. What? Oh dear, Saseki-san has really developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. Everybody a little racist in this. Okay, just him and that other guy. But the English woman didn't ignore you at all. She did she, Mr. Riderman? Well, yes, alright. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Miss Brett pointed a finger at the defendant? Soseki-san, is that really true? It's not easy to stand here and say this, but when we first entered the beach hut, the English woman was sprawled on the floor before us, with the student girl standing on the far side of her. And when I asked, "Who did this to you?" the English woman summoned her last ounce of strength to point a trembling finger at the back of the hut. Which was, it can't be denied, in the direction of the student girl who stands accused today. No. Soseki-san, why on earth did you neglect to mention this in the original testimony? What? Fiddlesticks, I say. This is not a British court of law. You will respond in Japanese. Yes, of course, the English woman did point her finger towards the back of the hut. But I was trembling, and she was trembling, and everything was a blur. And thinking about it, I feel as though perhaps she was pointing in a slightly different direction. Actually, no, not slightly, in a very different direction to where the student girl was standing. Somewhere to the back of the hut, where nobody was standing at all. You mean that your memory of events and the direction in which the victim was pointing are both unclear? Yes, that's it, unclear. I'm very, very unclear.
Objection!
Your Excellency, surely this proves that matter beyond all reasonable doubt. Yes, the woman may barely have been unconscious, and yes, perhaps her finger wavered slightly. But there can be no doubt that this was an attempt by the victim to confirm the identity of her assailant. Why? Because as the court can see, there was no one other than the accused in the direction the victim was pointing. It is now abundantly clear that no one besides the accused could possibly have committed this crime. I'm inclined to agree. And in the absence of any credible argument to the contrary, I believe we can now conclude this trial. No! The headline's writing itself. Dashing lawyers hopes dash. 92 point across the whole page. We'll do an extra edition. This is a serious blow, Sasato. Unless we're able to identify the true culprit and substantiate our claim with evidence, the judge will give his ruling and the trial will be over. But that's impossible, Father. We don't even know how the crime was committed yet. Impossible though the task may seem, we have no choice. We must think back over everything we've learnt thus far. Somewhere in all those details, I'm confident we'll find the clue we need. Ray gave us her account of how events unfolded in the defendant's antechamber before the trials was resumed. She told us what happened at the precise moment Miss Brett was killed. The English woman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. And then a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. How could Miss Brett have been stabbed in the back in a beach hut that was empty but for herself and Ray? Somewhere amid all the information we've gathered so far, there must be an answer to that question. I take it then that the defense has nothing further to add. So the gallant Yorkle student's luck finally runs out. I can't say I'm surprised. In that case, I am ready to deliver my final verdict on this matter. This is a crucial turning point now. If I can't establish what really happened, it's over. Where was the real culprit hiding? And how did he or she stab the victim? I know how! Through the reeds!
Objection!
It's like, oh shoot. Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your education for the time being. Oh, to what end, Counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture.
Objection!
An alternative theory? Ha! None exists!
Objection!
There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time, by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction! Fantasy! Very well, as you seem to be so sure of yourself, Counsel, I'm prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryotaro Naruhodo. Yes, Your Excellency? You will present your latest theory to the court by means of this plan. At the moment the victim was stabbed, where exactly are you proposing the culprit was concealed? Right here. Present!
Take that!
Naruhodo-san would never give up, and I'm a Naruhodo now. Marry him in 10 years, please. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, Counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut? What? There it is. Order, order, order! But student lawyer Naruhodo, Esquire, that makes no sense at all. You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap. Exactly. But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loading about, I can swear to that. Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Aoichi, there is a way. And in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that this is precisely the way Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing! You're bluffing! You can... The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, Counsel. What piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut? I would like to know that too. Let me take a look at this really quick. I can't do anything here, okay. Yeah, if he can part the reeds enough for a picture, he can part the reeds enough for a knife stab.
Take that!
No, it's not! Well, I presented it now. But I haven't the first idea why I chose this piece of evidence. What? Counsel, you're suggesting that this piece of evidence bears out your theory as to how the victim was stabbed? It's something of a windfall, Your Excellency. I think the word you were looking for, Counsel, was downfall. If your theory is correct, then the knife was thrust into Miss Brett's back from outside the hut. There should be a visible trace somewhere. A trace? Yes, on the hut itself. I'm with that, yeah, I must look at the court record again. What? Alright. Your Excellency? Alright, okay. Oh, right there. There's a split right there. Okay, this is the shot.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene? Yes, it's clearly visible in this print. The trace of the fatal thrust that was delivered from outside the beach hut.
Objection!
Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. Now, I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed that it is that I'm referring to. Counsel, once again, I must call on you to be explicit for the courtroom. Where on this photograph is the trace of the stabbing, which you claim took place from outside the hut? There.
Take that!
Look closely, just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds. No, I can't see any such thing. It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls, as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right in Memo, son. Could only have been you. No! Oh no!
Objection!
This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut. Was she not? Are we to assume as part of this farcical scenario that the assailant was a knife thrower?
Objection!
No, of course not. Why not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool? Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the reeds screen would align perfectly with the back of the person who was sitting at the stool.
My word! So, in fact, the victim was...
killed while sitting on the stool by a stab wound to her back directly through the reed screen. Should have read that better. Killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. There you go. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively. But then, unable to speak, she collapsed on the floor in the middle of the hut. Before the defendant, Mimbami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day. Bleh. By your silence, Memo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge? This is absurd!
That will do. It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Mbani-san, is innocent of the crime.
Woo! Oh, thank goodness. I finally made him cave.
I must say, I've never been more proud.
No, this can't be. The Aochi clan can't. What of my growth? My growth of hope? It was an apparition. It wasn't all an apparition. I can't accept this, I won't.
I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict, and... yeah, Many Memo is going to object here. Susecuted? No! Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing the well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals?
But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls.
And no one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction. So your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now.
Irrelevant?
Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed. It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else.
Robber. What? What are you talking about?
Brace yourselves, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up.
What?
Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness. What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course.
Poison?
Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? Understand that a deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right? That is correct. The unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used. I see. So, presumably that means... that the victim was already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed.
Ah.
Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood.
How refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely, it matters not a jot who stabbed whom and whose back and with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison.
Objection!
But that can't be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
But it's not on the blade!
Forgotten already, have we, yokel? During these very proceedings, the laboratory of the professor at your side assisted in proving that the blade of the weapon used to attack the victim had no trace of poison on it whatsoever.
So let me get this down. The facts, as skillfully established by the defense in this trial, turn out to be a headline-making red herring. Is that about right?
Well...
We still have an answer. The pen and the other. Order. But where does this leave us? How in that case did the poison enter the victim's body? There's an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it.
You mean she drank it?
Have another look at the photograph here, as you can see. A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked onto the sandy floor of the beach hut. The poison could have been slipped into either.
So somebody made Miss Brett drink it.
Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front-page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It would make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, would it? I mean, that's been established already.
Hold it!
Except, no, you were there first.
Established? What are you talking about?
Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you.
Me? What on earth does he mean?
Well, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is. It would seem that this trial is not destined to end yet, after all. I hereby call upon the witness to give further testimony. We're gonna stop there, right when he starts it. That's great, that is. Let me get a shot of that magnificent beard, Your Excellency. You claim it to be impossible that you are the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You explained to the court in your testimony the basis which upon you make such a claim. I'm a journo and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now, because that's many Memoism.
For a brief moment, I thought I'd illuminated the truth, but it slipped right back into obscurity again. Just where is this trial going to take us?
Oh, saving there? No, okay, there we go, right there. Okay, witness testimony, we'll stop there. Perfect spot, complete innocence. The thing is, he did establish he was there earlier. And if she dies in a couple minutes, so basically he obscures her poison death with the stabbing. That's all it is. Because we're going to find the poisons in the pen. Alright, so that's it for now. I have fun. Hope you have fun watching. That's what's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.